On a freezing October evening in 2011, police officers in the city of Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, walked up the stairs of an ordinary apartment complex. They were executing a routine search warrant. For months, local authorities had been baffled by a series of disturbing reports coming from local cemeteries. Graves had been disturbed, but nothing valuable was taken. The police suspected local vandals or an extremist group. Their investigation led them to the door of apartment 12, home to Anatoly Moskvin, a highly respected 45-year-old academic, historian, and linguist. When the officers stepped inside, the apartment smelled faintly of old paper, dried flowers, and a strange, sweet chemical odor they couldn't quite place. Stacked from floor to ceiling were thousands of books, historical documents, and map charts. But as they cleared a path through the clutter into the living room, the officers stopped dead in their tracks. Sitting on the sofas, arranged in chairs, and standing against the walls were 29 life-sized handmade dolls. They were dressed in elaborate vintage dresses, knee-high boots, and colorful headscarves. Some had fabric wrapped around their faces, while others wore wax masks with painted makeup. To the officers, it looked like an eccentric, albeit creepy, private collection. But then, one of the investigators accidentally bumped into one of the figures. A soft, tinny melody began to play from inside its chest. As the officer leaned closer to examine the doll's face, he noticed something underneath the fabric and wax. A dried, human hand sticking out of the sleeve. The 29 dolls resting in Anatoly Moskvin's living room were not made of plastic or porcelain. They were the mummified remains of young girls. To understand how such a horror could exist inside a quiet residential building, one must first look at the man behind the door. Anatoly Moskvin was not an uneducated outcast. In fact, he was widely regarded as a genius. Fluent in 13 languages including Celtic dialects, Latin, and Old Norse, Moskvin was a prominent historian, university lecturer, and journalist. Colleagues described him as a brilliant scholar who spent up to 14 hours a day buried in archives. But Moskvin had a very specific field of interest: necropolises, the history, culture, and architecture of burial grounds. Between 2005 and 2007, Moskvin undertook a monumental research project. He claimed to have personally visited over 750 cemeteries across the region. His field notes were meticulous. He mapped out grave locations, recorded epitaphs, and documented local folklore. To conduct his research, Moskvin went to extreme lengths. He often walked dozens of miles a day, slept on stacks of hay in abandoned churches, drank rainwater, and on several occasions, even slept inside empty wooden coffins to feel closer to his subjects. His field notes were meticulous. He mapped out grave locations, recorded epitaphs, and documented local folklore. To conduct his research, Moskvin went to extreme lengths. He often walked dozens of miles a day, slept on stacks of hay in abandoned churches, drank rainwater, and on several occasions, even slept inside empty wooden coffins to feel closer to his subjects. When questioned years later about the origin of his dark obsession, Anatoly Moskvin pointed back to a single, traumatic afternoon in 1979 when he was just 11 years old. According to Moskvin's account, he was walking home from school when he stumbled upon a funeral procession for an 11-year-old girl named Natasha Petrov. What happened next would sound unbelievable if it weren't documented in police records. Moskvin claimed that a group of adults in black suits grabbed him and dragged him toward the open coffin. In accordance with a bizarre local ritual or belief, the adults forced the terrified 11-year-old boy to kiss the dead girl's face repeatedly. They then placed a brass ring on the deceased girl's finger and a matching ring on young Anatoly's finger, declaring them symbolically married. Whether this event occurred exactly as Moskvin remembered, or was a delusion constructed by his deteriorating mind, its impact was absolute. From that day forward, Moskvin claimed he felt an unbreakable bond with the deceased. He became convinced that the dead were not truly gone, but simply trapped in a cold, lonely state waiting for someone to wake them up. As he grew into adulthood, his academic research into Celtic mythology and spiritualism only reinforced this belief. He became obsessed with the idea that through science, magic, or devotion, he could bridge the gap between life and death. Sometime around 200 chaos-filled nights, Moskvin's theoretical fascination transformed into physical action. Under the cover of darkness, equipped with shovel and sack, Moskvin began visiting night cemeteries. He selectively targeted the graves of young girls between the ages of 3 and 12. He would carefully dig up the earth, extract the remains, and carry them miles back to his apartment, hiding them in his backpack. Once inside his room, Moskvin embarked on a meticulous preservation process. He used a homemade mixture of baking soda, salt, and spirits to dry out the remains and prevent decomposition. To restore a sense of life to the figures, he stuffed their chest cavities with rags and dried flowers. He wrapped their limbs in nylon stockings, crafted custom wax masks over their faces, and inserted glass eyes or buttons into their eye sockets. But Moskvin didn't just preserve them, he treated them as living members of a family. He bought them bright dresses, shoes, and makeup. He placed small mechanical music boxes inside their chests so they could sing. He set up chairs around television sets so they could watch cartoons together, and held annual birthday parties in his apartment for each of the figures. Perhaps the most astounding aspect of this story is that Moskvin lived in this small apartment with his elderly parents, both in their 70s. When authorities asked his mother how she never noticed, she explained that she saw her son crafting these large figures out of fabric and wax, but assumed it was merely an harmless artistic hobby. She had no idea what was contained inside them. As for the foul odor that occasionally leaked into the hallway, neighbors had long attributed it to the building's failing plumbing system. Following the horrifying discovery in October 2011, Anatoly Moskvin was arrested and charged with 44 counts of desecration of graves and dead bodies. During interrogation, Moskvin showed no remorse or hostility. Instead, he spoke with the cold detachment of an academic explaining a research project. When confronted in court by the grieving parents whose children's graves he had violated, Moskvin looked at them and delivered a chilling statement. "You abandoned your girls in the cold ground," he said. "I brought them home and warmed them up." He maintained that he never intended to cause harm, claiming he was holding the girls until medical science advanced enough to bring them back to life. He also confessed that his deep desire to adopt a child had been rejected years prior due to his low income, driving him to create his own twisted household. In 2012, psychiatric evaluations concluded that Anatoly Moskvin suffered from severe paranoid schizophrenia. He was deemed mentally unfit to stand trial and was committed to a high-security psychiatric facility for mandatory treatment. To this day, Moskvin remains in a state facility, with medical boards periodically reviewing his condition while victims' families fight to ensure he is never released. The case of Anatoly Moskvin remains a haunting testament to how a brilliant mind, warped by trauma and obsession, can step completely out of reality and create a nightmare behind closed doors. What do you think about this case? Was Moskvin a cold-hearted criminal, or a deeply sick man consumed by his own illusions? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most compelling stories.